Now, the 2025 Ozone Depletion Celebration Day seemed to have started already, but 4 Nigerian states, namely Borno, Rivers, Abuja, and Lagos, has been identified as worst hit already by radiation from the ozone layer as a result of its depletion, and government have been also urged to enforce existing anti-ozone layer depletion law and support the use of clean technology. Well, this was the position of stakeholders at the commemoration of the 2025 International Ozone Day celebration, which was held early this week, with a theme from science to global awareness. Acting organized by the Ozone, or rather the activity organized by Save the Ozone Nigeria in collaboration with the Federal and State Ministries of Environment and the National Center for Energy. In his opening address, the chairman of the event, Professor Anthony Ugbebu, said Nigeria must sustain its policy on the ozone layer because a recent scientific research shows that the ozone depletion and exposure to eternal UV radiation affect more states and places now in Nigeria than ever before. It's also documented that in Borno, Rivers, and Abuja and Lagos, radiation often reaches very high extreme levels in the midday, especially in the day and early raining season. Even a short exposure with UV penetration can be harmful effect, and advocates are more to do, especially as it concerns enlightenment on the UV risks and protective behavior. But the question is, how aware are Nigerians to the causes of the ozone depletion and also the resultant risks of UV radiation? And are we in every way entering a phase where these will become more of a contending problem, knowing that some states are already affected? Well, a look at the commemoration of the World Ozone Day is what this edition of Dialogue is all about. And we're talking about the 2025 International Ozone Layer Day celebration that was held just recently. And that's what we're having as a major one today on the show. We're talking about the celebration of the 2025 Ozone International Day Layer celebration. And that's what we're having as a major discourse today on the show. And to truly help us talk about this is a fellow of the Nigerian Environmental Society.
Member, sir?
Yes, rather a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society, and also our lovely guest as it concerns issue that concerns the environment and also the well-being of the environment itself. And we're talking of no other person but Mr. Felix Unumadu. Mr. Felix, nice having you on the show. Welcome to it.
Thank you for having me. And first of all, I have to thank Atlantic TV for sustaining the advocacy.
Well, thank you.
You know, for always giving us platform to educate and enlighten citizens on the importance of good environmental behaviors and all issues pertaining environment. So I have to first of all appreciate the management of Atlantic. They are doing a great job.
Well, thank you so much. And in that era of appreciation, we also want to say that what we enjoy doing here is that advocacy push, especially as it concerns clean, renewable energy, and also a push for better environment for us and the generation to follow. But anyway, as much as we're talking about today, like we said earlier, just on Monday, the 2025 International Ozone Layer Day was celebrated, and is every emphasis on the issue of technology and how we can indeed improve the environment. But let's quickly come back to it. Now, yes, we know some states, as being stated in that very report that Dialogue put together. We're talking about states like Lagos, Rivers, Abuja, and funny enough, Borno in the north are highly hit by this depletion of the ozone layer. Now, many will say they rarely hear anything about the ozone layer, which is in every way correct. This was something that was well talked about in the early 80s and 90s. But in the recent 2000s, many persons seem to have jettisoned that, or many will have feel, well, it's not the most pressing problem. But funny enough, it's now coming back to haunt us, especially looking at that very report. But my question is, should we really be truly concerned about the depletion of the ozone layer as it stands now? Is it a serious problem or a serious contending problem to Nigerians, or should we just put it at the side and deal with other contending problems like flood and erosion and all of that? What's your view on this?
The ozone layer depletion have to be a national discourse at this point.
Okay.
Because like the flood you reference to, it also contributes to flood, but we wouldn't go that part. Now, let's first of all establish the ozone layer itself. What is the ozone layer? Ozone layer are ozone molecules that are found in the stratosphere of the atmosphere. Now, the atmosphere have about 4 layers. You have the troposphere, you have the stratosphere, you have the mesosphere, and the ionosphere. You understand? So when you look at these, each of the sphere, or each of the layers, you call them, have their own job. They have their own contribution, and they have their own stabilization to, as it concerns the Earth. So when we talk about the ozone layer depletion on this manner, it means the reduction in ozone layer as it concerns stratosphere. And when you want to look at the depletion, you say, depletion is something that is reduced and not commemorate with the production pattern. Don't also forget that the nature has its own way of reducing the ozone on its own. But what is actually happening now is the anthropogenic activities, that is human activities, contributing major factor to ozone layer depletion. And when we want to look at ozone layer depletion, you look at it in 2 parts. One, you have the hole in the pole, the polar holes. Then the other one, you have the thinning, that is reducing the ozone layer tiny in itself. You understand? So when you are looking at this part, you see that Nigeria and those states that were measured, you might ask yourself, why is it affecting these states?
Yes.
You understand? But before we talk about why it's affecting these states, because we'll get to that when we look at the causes of ozone layer depletion. I will dwell more on this ozone layer so that the citizen will understand what it means. Oftentimes, they think climate change, ozone layer, they are jargons. That those are Western collaborators or Western languages coined to deceive us.
Or scare us.
Or to scare us.
Yes.
But the truth is that it is real. Ozone layer depletion is actually real. And Nigeria is also contributing to ozone layer depletion by the way of our activities. You understand? When we get to the causes, I will now tell you why those cities are mainly affected.
Okay, now it looks as if you just even let the cat out of the bag now, because that's where I was really wanting to go. Now you talked about us being a major contributor.
Yes.
Now everybody will say if there was this follow-up of the effective policy of the Montreal Protocol of 1987 that was signed to deal with the issue of the ozone depletion, will not be where we are now. So, but let's leave that declaration. The Montreal Protocol of 1987, yes, which mandated countries to do the needful to deal with the issue of the depletion of the ozone layer. But let's now really come back to what you said earlier, the causes. Because if you do not discover, you can never recover.
Yes.
So let's understand what is causing the depletion of the ozone.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, the causes are anthropogenic activities, that is human activities.
Yes, let's understand those human activities.
Okay, those human activities, the emission of some agents that act with the ozone. Don't forget, ozone, they are chemical composition on their own.
Yes.
So what they do is that even this ultraviolet ray, the UV, it acts with the ozone to break down those ozone that are molecules. Okay. Then when the UV rays radiation acts on the ozone, it breaks into atoms.
Okay.
You understand? These atoms, they also act with oxygen, nitrogen, and other substances to form other elements. Okay. You understand? So, but when these emissions, or like for example the gas flaring now, when you flare a gas, what it does is that these as we call them ODS or ODP. When we talk about ODP, we talk about ozone layer depletion potentials. Then when you talk about ODS, we talk about ozone layer depletion substances.
Okay.
You understand? So these substances, they can as well as stay in the air from 75 years to 100 years. They are there. So they are ODS potentials because they have not actually acted, but they are potentials to deplete the ozone layer. So they stay there. They stay there. They interact with the atmosphere and all that. You understand? Now, when you flare gas, when you carry out open burning, forest deforestation, that is deforestation. You cut down trees, forest areas without replanting. Those, they emit these substances that causes ozone layer depletion.
Okay.
So the causes are enormous. Like the urban area now, we look at the transportation.
Okay.
The transportation system. When everybody is using vehicle at a time, you see this emission that the carbon monoxide.
We call them green gas.
The green gas emissions, they become very high. In fact, the green gas is we come to that. It is actually different.
Okay.
Because what green gas does, green gas are those gases that act as a shade.
Okay.
You understand? To the ozone layer itself.
But can that be gotten through the release of fossil fuel carbons?
Yes.
Okay.
When we talk about fossil, like I mentioned gas flaring.
Okay.
When you are flaring gas, it's fossil fuel.
So even normal emission from our exhaust from the car.
Exhaust. Yes. When they are much.
Yes.
When you release this, like I give you example, you have so many cars at the same time.
Yes.
They are releasing these carbons from the cars. They act, like I told you, they act with the atmosphere. They go there, they pass the troposphere, which is the first stage.
Layer.
Don't forget that the troposphere we are talking about, the first layer we are talking about, what it contains is just about 71% of nitrogen. You have 21% of oxygen. Then you now have other gases combined together. That is what troposphere contains. Okay. But it is when you move further out of the troposphere that you now get to where the stratosphere, where you have the ozone itself. You understand? So these gases, they have that potential of, they have this longevity of staying long, and they have
penetrative power.
They have that potential of penetrating the troposphere to stay. In fact, even not interacting immediately with the stratosphere, but they have that, like I told you, they can be suspended for about 75 years to 100 years. Wow. You understand? And don't forget that the stratosphere we are talking about have about 35 kilometers from the surface of the earth to that place. But these agents, let me call them chemicals, we relatively know them. They travel up there and they have the ability of suspending themselves for that long.
Okay, now still talking about what causes it, and I'm happy you talked about what seems to be a major driver in our urban setting. Now let's look at the issue of gases that is being used in refrigerators.
Yes.
Because they also say that's a major contributor.
Yes.
And not only that one, that of even air conditioning. Because we have them in almost all our offices.
Yes.
Now, is that also a potential problem in the depletion of our ozone?
Yes. In fact, when you look at the actual chemical, because now we want to look at the composition now. Yeah. The actual chemicals that causes the ozone layer depletion, they are grouped as chlorofluorocarbon, that is CFC.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this CFC, you actually get them from some elements put together to produce refrigerator. They act as coolant.
Okay.
They are kind of coolant.
Okay.
So they use it in refrigerator. They use it in ACs. Even all these solvents that we are using, these aerosols, we are saying they also use them to produce it. So the major chemical, if you want to call it chemical, the major chemical or the major compound that actually deplete the ozone layer is that chlorofluorocarbon.
CHC for short.
Yes, CFC for short.
CFC for short.
Yes, CFC for short.
Okay, now, I'm also a bit curious. Like, as much as you've mentioned this, I could still remember in July, the Lagos state government banned styrofoam in packaging of food.
For years.
And there's every belief that that also has a linkage to the release of chemicals, because it hardly degrade, and even if it does, it releases some chemical. Can that also be a contributor to the ozone layer depletion?
In fact,
Styrofoams.
you even reminded me of foam. Even this foam production, like the Vita. Sorry, let me not mention these foams you are using to sleep. There are some agents that are used in producing those foams that contain these chemicals we are talking about. These chemicals, they are extractors. Okay. So I don't want to go into deep chemical chemistry in this discussion, so that it will be very simpler for our audience. Yes. So there are so many.
But
so many
is the styrofoam that they usually use in packing food in parties and the rest, is that also a major contributor?
Those styrofoam you are saying. In fact, that is when we now go to the aspect of waste management on its own. Okay. Those styrofoam, they contain some agents like this PCB. Okay. They contain PCB that that have their own element that also act. So they are also part of it. Not really a main contributor, but they contribute. They contribute their own quota to it.
Okay. Now, as much in our course of our discussion, it's only right to also state this, because many will say, yes, the ozone layer, we know all of this is also being depleted by these causes. But let's look at the risks, because that's where we are now. Judging with the very release of that very report indicating that 4 states are highly hit, especially during the midday, which is about 12 to 2, and also during when rain wants to start heavily in most of these 4 states that we earlier mentioned. Now, let's look at the risk factor of ozone layer depletion. What effect does it have on us humans? Let's understand that.
Okay. When we talk about human, you cannot talk about human existence without talking about the environment, talking about the health and socio-economic part. So I'm going to group them into these 3 as we discussed. So let us look at human, like you said, the health impact of it. This ozone layer depletion, when that ozone is depleted, either there is a hole, like I told you, the polar hole in the ozone, or the reduction of the density of the ozone. That is, let me not use big English, the size of the ozone. Maybe if the ozone was having this weight and it is now reduced to this weight, so it will also reduce the potentity of the ozone. So what are the effects? It allows the penetration of the UV radiation straight. Don't also forget that the UV radiation is classified into 3. You have the A, you have the B, and you have the C. The one that causes major harm are the B and the C. So when you allow that, especially the B, to penetrate into the soil, they also causes this melanoma, kind of a cancer. They causes skin cancer
to human.
To human, yes. They causes skin cancer to human. Like some people, especially our young women, when they tell you that I have a sunburn, what do you think that is causing the sunburn? Is the excess of the radiation, the penetration, because there is no ozone. Don't also forget that ozone is supposed to be like a coolant to reduce. It's supposed to reduce that impact of the UV radiation. But now, when the ozone does not have that potentity again, does not have that power again, then it gives way for that sun. And when it touches, it causes even aging. Yes, it causes aging. It causes a skin cancer, like I said, even an eye problem, cataract. This eye is programmed with a kind of array, an infrared refraction. So the more concentration of light, the more brighter the place is. If you reduce the light, you see that the eye will adjust to that, to what is just to accommodate what is at that particular time. So that is the same way it exposes the eye to cataract. It causes cataract and other eye diseases like eye itching and other diseases. That is for the health part. So there are so many other health parts, but I'll just look at this one. Then let's look at the environmental part.
Okay.
Now, what does it do? When some people will tell you, jokingly, they will tell you that after all, the trees, they need sun because of the photosynthesis. That is not correct. The type of sun that the trees, they need for their photosynthesis is not the one that from that UVA radiation B, you can call it UVA B, that comes to them. That reduces the productivity of that tree. Even it stunts the growth of the tree. That is why when you go to some region, why do you have desert? When you go to some regions that you see that are exposed to sun, you see that most of the trees that are they have stunted growth. Yes, because the sun is so hard on them that even that photosynthesis process is stopped. Then we look at the soil fertility, for example. The effect of ozone layer depletion can also affect soil fertility. You know, the ability of the soil to produce, to have its manure, like we all call it manures, but there are organisms that are helped in production in the soil. And when you also want to talk about that, you look at the aquatic life. There are some I'm looking for some aquatic life, like some
fishes,
not actually fishes. I'm talking about the trees, the shrubs, the plants. Sorry, let me use the word plant now. There are some plants that they cannot actually survive that UVA, even when they are close to the seashore. You understand? So they die off. So it altered the ecosystem balance and even the food chain. It altered the food chain. I'm trying to get the actual plant. In fact, it's the number one in food chain. When you want to talk about food chain, so when it affected that, it also affected food chain and even food production. Then you mentioned the fishes. When the water is overheated, for example, you see that it becomes warmer or hot. Then it makes some of those fishes to die, whereby reducing the protein of this. Fish is made up source of human protein. So it reduces that sources of human protein. Then when we leave that, we now want to look at the socioeconomic part of it. What are the socioeconomic part of it? Like we said, when the soil fertility is reduced, agricultural produce is reduced. Now it causes food insecurity. And these are socioeconomic concerns. It causes then it also gives, like I told you, it causes skin cancer, cataract and all that. It also gives pressure on the health facilities that we have already, because you now have many people coming with issue of skin cancer, cataract and other illnesses. So it now gives pressure on the health facility. Then it also, when you look at the economic part, it will now make government to spend more money on subsidizing those drugs and treatments for citizens, for patients. And it also can cause even should I call it war or crisis? Because when some parts are overheated, they can't stay there. They look for another settlement. And when you are migrating, don't forget that people are already living there. So that will now cause a clash.
But it's not the reason we're having herdsmen in the south.
No. Okay. Though I can, in fact, I stand to be corrected, but I can attribute it to it. Because like I give you an example, when you look at some part of the north, you see that these plants, they don't have them to even feed the cow. Though the practice, this nomadic system of lifestyle is bad. You understand? That is bad. But being even if as you or anyhow you are seeing it, that is the practice that their livelihood or they inherited, until government decide to put up branches and or enforce them or enforce the law that okay, for you to rear a cow, have your own ranches. This will continue. So when you look at those areas that are desert, there are no plants for the cow to feed. You see them, they move to the south. That is the essence of the movement. Moving to look for more greener or vegetations that those cows can feed on. You understand? So it's also part of it. So it's a socioeconomic part. These are part of or socioeconomic part of ozone depletion.
Okay, now, anyway, as much as you've helped us trace and also emphasize the different effects of the ozone layer depletion, I want us now to come to the issue of sensitization. That's what we always enjoy doing here, bringing such issues as it concerns the environment to the public domain for everybody to know. But my question, do you feel government at all levels, we're talking about both the federal, state, and local, are doing enough in sensitizing Nigerians on the need to do more as it concerns the ozone layer depletion? Do even young Nigerians, I'm talking, do even you or your organization or other organizations even visit schools? Does government even visit schools to really inform them about a need to also protect the generation, knowing that there's every possibility that this might be one of the major problems in the next generation, the issue of ozone layer depletion? So let's look at that. Is there enough sensitization coming from different governments of all tiers?
Okay, when you talk about sensitization, you know, the government part, they're actually not supposed to be the one in the forefront or driving sensitization. That is why you have association like ours. I belong to so many professional associations. For example, I'm a fellow of the Emergency Crisis Risk Management Institute, which also is in the forefront of advocacy for the environmental protection. Then I'm also a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society, like you introduced me. We're also in the forefront. In fact, Nigerian Environmental Society is described by the federal government as a watchdog, environmental watchdog of Nigeria. Then I'm also a member of IAN, that is Association of Environmental Impact Assessment of Nigeria. In that association, we believe that you can curb environmental menace through a proper and well-articulated environmental impact assessment of every developmental project. So we bring impact assessment to being as a form of we pushing for impact assessment and advocacy for Nigeria. And also, I'm a member of the World Safety Organization. I'm a member of ISPON. So I belong to so many professional bodies. And
so should we hold your organization rather in charge? Should we hold you guys for not doing enough sensitization?
No. Why I'm giving you all this breakdown, why I'm telling you about these organizations is because as an organization we are doing our own best. We are doing our own quota, and that is why I'm here today to say this is what is actually real. And we also have to thank your organization, once again, for always opening your doors for sensitization and advocacy. And so I think instead of putting it to this side of government, if other media like yours can do this all the time, don't you think there will be more sensitization? So that is where it comes from. On the government aspect, government, they have, I remember there is a effluent discharge regulation of 1991. Then it was FEPA, Federal Environmental Protection Agency. Now it's the Federal Ministry of Environment that are trying to, in the way of regulating ozone layer. Don't also forget that I-linked waste management issues. So the issue of ozone layer depletion. Because why I link it? If you import, we Africans, we are now the hubs of used materials from the West. If, for example, you import ACs from the West, do you know whether that AC have this CFC or that it was rejected and banned in that country before you now bring it? So what government should be doing is more of regulating the import system. When you are importing, they should be able to certify it, whether it has this greenhouse gases in it, whether it has CFC on it. So this is what they are supposed to look at. Then, I will not exempt government totally because they have an arm of advocacy, which is the National Orientation Agency. Now, what National Orientation Agency is supposed to do is to liaise with professional bodies like ours and said, okay, let's be making a jingle. We can produce a sound. The professionals will produce a sound, produce a message. Why you jingle
and come play on Atlantic TV and raise funds for us also. Yes.
So
we are there to make money.
You understand. So that is a part of government. So now I've identified two key issues or two key elements that government is supposed to play. One, they're supposed to regulate enforcement, especially when it comes to importing used products, to check whether this CFC is not there, and then this greenhouse gases that are not also on it. So when they have done that, they should also move, or include them. They should not even move. They should include the National Orientation Agency, collaborating with the professional organizations, creating jingles, and playing it in media houses and to sensitize citizens. And like you also said, we have a program in NES, Catching Them Young. We have a FMO Kole competition whereby we go to secondary schools to sensitize them about the environment. So I've been a moderator of that quiz for so many years now. So we go to schools. First of all, we teach them, we bring environmental issues, we teach them, then we give them quiz. So on environment. So when you are done with that, you now come to the stage where we also do enlightenment for them. So
okay, now because of time, I want us now to also talk about something that's also a major. You made mention of greenhouse gases coming from fossil fuel.
Yes.
But you agree with me that Nigeria totally relies on fossil fuel, not just to power their engines, but also a major contributor to revenue in the country. We know many countries are now going to clean energy, and in every way it's most likely going to affect our revenue in the future. But anyway, we are still here enjoying the money. Let's now return back to it. Now, do you see us at the receiving end if, and I'm saying if, most fossil fuel are being now put aside on account of greenhouse gases emission and also the depletion of the ozone layer? How really critical or how much of an impact will this have on us?
Okay, let me start this. So when you look at other countries that also produces like what we call crude oil, they are also trying to diversify. You understand?
So
for example, when you look at US, for example, US has more reserve barrels of oil than Nigeria.
Most certainly.
You understand? But US, they go into other sources of renewable energies. So Nigeria can also do that. Don't forget that initially Nigeria thought that if they don't mine coal, that the economy will crumble. But at the end of the day, they shifted from the same coal. You understand? That does not mean that the coal have lapses, that there are no more coals in Enugu, as we call them the city of coal. There are still coal in Enugu, but they left it. You understand? Don't also forget that Nigeria can decide to also leave the oil on the ground, leave the issue of fossil fuel, concentrate on renewable energy, and even export. Nigeria is so blessed. Nigeria can go face agriculture. Nigeria can face agriculture and even make more money from agri than the oil we're making. Nigeria can also, we have a bunch of, let me say, we have human resources. So if Nigerians develop their human resources, and when you train and they go abroad to work, they become source of revenue for Nigeria. But the challenge that Nigeria have now is that when they train, because of the system, so many people, they call it this jackpa. They go out, they work there without even remitting, because it's not even well documented that this person has already left after training also. So if Nigeria can put all these things in place, it will reduce that pressure. Or when we think that it is the oil money that we must survive on. No, we have other means of survival. Even this renewable energy. If you push this renewable energy to Nigerians, and they can even export it, they can produce, for example, the solar panels and all that. Nigeria, they are good industrialists. Yes, so you understand, they are not to invent things. So they can do all this and still export, and Nigeria will make more money than what we are doing. So abandoning the fossil fuel at this point, I don't think is really going to affect Nigeria holistically if it is properly planned. Don't forget the action word is planning. If it is properly planned and regulated, then we can do away with it.
Anyway, we're not doing away with our discussion, but rather need to really go away because of time. And I will thank no other person but an environmentalist, and I'm talking of no other person but Mr. Felix Unumadu. For coming through and helping us to really understand the ozone layer. On the mining, you say more needs to be done as a concern sensitization to Nigerians to understand the need to have more, especially as concerns the ozone layer, so we do not go through some of the effects and that he has talked about. We're talking about the risk effect to individuals, but we're talking about the risk effect to the environment itself, and also the socio-economic risk effect of the depletion of the ozone layer. All of that he looked at and more. But we implore you to also remember to drop your comments and share, and also react to some of the topics we've had continuously on dialogue. We're more than happy to have all of that so we can also address them. But the best thing, or the way to address the issue now, is to thank you so much. And I'm talking of Mr. Felix Unumadu, a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society Delta State Chapter.
Yes.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation once again, our invitation for coming and talking about the environment. And I just wish you guys more celebration on the mining. We had the 2025 International Day of the celebration of the ozone layer just on some days back. We're talking about Wednesday to Wednesday. Yes, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Really appreciate your time with us.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Well, anyway, it's more like a wrap today on our dialogue. Like we employed you, just go get more country, or rather drop your comments and let's hear your views as it concerns our discussion today. What better way to protect the ozone layer, and what causative that needs to be put aside so we do not deplete it more. But anyway, all of that is what we'd love to get on your comment. But for me, Michael Gobaya, God willing, we'll see you later.